So, dude, I don't think we've ever had the opportunity to talk before, but you're one of those creators that I've been watching from afar and admiring for sure. Like your hustle and your drive.
Oh, thanks, man.
I think there was like a Jersey Comic Con. It might have been like Garden State Comic Fest. I don't think it's around anymore, but it might have been almost 10 years or so ago. And that was the first time I saw you. I don't think we've had the opportunity to talk, but dude, ever since then, like I said, like your hustle and all Kickstarter, you've just been crushing it, man. And I really, I admire that, and I kind of. There's a bunch of people I study and try to emulate, and you're definitely one of them. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks so much, man. I mean, yeah, that's good to hear. That might have actually been a convention where I was, my business card was taken and added to this strange chainmail list. It was this ongoing joke where these college students created this impossible to leave group called something Tards. I don't remember what it was, but it was something Tards, and they would send just these strange pictures of like old people, ventriloquist dummies, and at first it was super disturbing, but then I would like leave the chat.
You got into it.
Yeah. I would leave the chat, and then they would add me back to like say, I wish I remembered the name because it was something about like personal business owners, and they would add me back to like version 19 of the chat. I was like, oh damn, this has been going on for a long time. People are stuck in this loop. I don't know why I went into that, but there that is.
So you eventually got out, or are you still in that dark web?
I'm free for a while now, but who knows? They might come back.
Yeah, it might be in your spam.
It was. And this is a bit close to a thing that you shouldn't say, but it was free Tards, free space then Tards, and I think that it was because they got our business account for free, and they just started to spam us with insanity,
Dude, so I know you've written well-known IP, excuse me, well-known IP, and I mean now. I saw in the last year you've had like 4 Kickstarter campaigns just crush it, like absolutely crush it. Is the goal creator owned? Like, do you want to build up, and your publishing company is Space Between Entertainment, right? So is your main goal right now just to put out your own crap and kill it that way?
Yeah, I take freelance work as it comes in. While I'm doing all this, I've done stuff like a Warrior Nun for Avatar. I've done a surprising amount of kids stuff recently. Like I did this book called Disney Villains, where it is sort of like this Disney guy who chronicles the history and the stories of these villains from his point of view. I've done that. I've done Spideography, which is like Peter Parker's discovered journal, but yeah, I mean, what I want to do for myself mostly, and just as my main mode of creation, is definitely creator owned. I for a huge portion of my career, I was exclusive to a company called Zenescope, and I was writing multiple titles for them, and it was great, but
I want to get into that, but go ahead.
Yeah. It was great, and it was also, there came a time when I had written hundreds of comics for them, and it's mostly set in the same universe. So when I wanted to start doing other stuff, I would take gigs here and there, and so many of the comics gigs that I got to work on, they were fun, but they weren't really as rewarding as the Zenescope work in many ways, because they had this interconnected universe where if I tell one story here, I can kind of pay it off years later down the line. So I wanted to sort of create my own way to do that, to have these stories that I tell over the course of years, and where I can really be the one to say, Destiny New York, for example, will end at this volume, where I don't have to be like, oh, I hope that a publisher lets me do 4 issues, So it was more about,
the freedom, right?
Exactly. The freedom. It's about getting, putting a body of work out there that I'm fully responsible for, but also that, it fails or succeeds on its own merit. Like Destiny New York, I would have had to have ended it sooner if it wasn't going well right now,
Yeah.
And it's all about just right now for me, just trying new things and doing what I love and seeing if what I love has an audience out there. And so far, thankfully, it has. So,
Yeah, no, like I said, yeah, you've been killing it. And speaking of building, I guess trying new things. Have you written so Thirsty? I saw that was by far the leader of all of your campaigns.
Yeah,
and
dude.
It's a not safe for work graphic novel, right? So,
Yeah.
is that something? Like I guess erotic comics, is that something you were looking to do, or is on your bucket list? And I guess now that it crushed it, as hard as it did, is that leader of the pack for your next foray or your next titles and so on?
Yeah, it definitely it changed things in a way going forward. In that, with Destiny New York, when that was funded, I was like, all right, well, now we made this a series. With Thirsty, it's this thing that can be. I'm not gonna do like Thirsty 2, but I will do like Spicy. Like just like
Right.
do books in that line. And yeah, it definitely enlightened all of us. Like my our editor Shannon Lee on that book, she runs our social media, and she posted something like to our backers like, oh, I didn't know that y'all were nasty, and it's true, we were taken off guard by the amount of difference, say, between like, we've tried certain things here and there, like the campaign right previous to it, Vampire Emmy and the Garbage Girl, that also surprised us, but in a different way, that we knew that we had an audience for, but we thought that that there would be a decent level of interest, but there was a good amount of interest, more than we thought, and that was more of a happy surprise. Thirsty, there was such a discrepancy between what we expected and what we got that it couldn't just be a happy surprise. It did have to change our mode going forward for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah. I was taken back when I saw how well you guys killed it with that, and deservedly so. So with something like Destiny, now that you're laying it out, years in advance, or how do you plot something that long and that far out? I mean, do you just have a giant piece of paper on a table and you're kind of timeline and thinking of different plots and how to interconnect them?
It is there are documents. Dude,
Sure,
I can't do longhand though. I'm not sure what it is, but like I look back and I can't believe that I took physical tests as a kid. Just writing a few sentences, my hand hurts,
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I mean, my hand will hurt after a while,
Yeah.
but I love it. I mean, I grew up in New York, but now I live out in New Jersey, and I used to commute when we went to the city. I worked in the city. So I would commute. I would take the bus in for, 5 or 6 years now. So I was kind of forced being cramped on public transportation and even on the subway, just with a small notepad. So that was my gym workout, for my wrist and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
But
it's probably primed for the writing. Yeah.
yeah, and just the act of writing longhand, I just something about it just clicks with me. I just like doing it. I can get if I'm really hitting like a stream of consciousness where I just kind of zen out and just start going, even if it turns out to be like crap. The act of doing that is just something I dig it. So, but I feel what you're saying too. It could be a pain in the ass for sure.
Yeah, but yeah. That is. There's definitely a value in it though, for sure, that I miss. Like, dude, for example, I have probably about 20 notebooks that I started to write notes in, and I can't commit to it for some reason, because I know that it's gonna physically hurt me. But yeah, as far as Destiny New York, there are certain elements of the story that are very beat by beat written down. But other things that are more in the future are things that I mull over in my head for a long time,
Right, I do that too.
Yeah, there's and it's I was actually talking today on the Vodka O'Clock podcast about how it's like problem solving. Like I know that I have to have a character do this action, go through this action, and then it's all about shaping around that to make it, to make it meaningful, to make it impactful, and to make it play a role in not just the first version I think of it, but more have ripples throughout the entire story. You know?
Right. Yeah, yeah. You have the plot, the little plot points, and then the meat and potatoes. The story that goes into it is the, I'll call it fluff, but that's the story. That's the heart. You know, all that crap that you got to add to it. And I guess when you're doing long form, you're thinking that out obviously a lot further. You know, instead of just a single issue, which would be a smaller aspect to it, but long form, you're hitting all those beats further down the line.
Yeah, but it could be kind of intimidating too, because
I bet.
For example, it's kind of like this. Just picture a long distance relationship online between people. You know, like where you have, you know, if you talk to someone a lot in text before you meet, you create this expectation. Oh, when I meet them, it's going to be like this. That's sort of how it feels when I come to the actual writing of a plot point I've had in here for a long time, where I have this like almost it's like author's performance anxiety, where I'm like, damn, am I going to be able to make this scene equal out to what I wanted it to be when I first thought of it, and then as I developed it? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, making it work. Like I'm working on something now, so I in doing this show and starting to lay out this show, I'm doing another part, just a writing comics section where I just kind of go over my process. So it forced me to sit and think about how I do it and commit to, you know, if I had to tell someone how I do it, which fluctuates a lot. I don't know about you, it definitely fluctuates, but I start off with the brainstorming phase, which, like you said, I kind of keep a lot of it up in here, and I mull it over, and I think if it's even worth doing. And then when I finally want to commit to a story, I'll start taking notes, and I might have different books all over the place here, but I might write ideas, like one idea for a little bit of quippy dialogue, you know, I'll put that on a post-it note, an action scene that might take place at the very end, some crap from the beginning. You know, it's all over the place, the brainstorming phase. And then when I come in and do the outlining phase, that's kind of, especially if it's 3 or 4 issues, which is the book I'm outlining and working on now, the anxiety that you mentioned, like I can appreciate, you put it into good words when you said that, because I'm literally doing that now and trying to connect the dots and trying to outline issue 4 and work on those callbacks that I set up for issue 1. It's just, I guess you got to be, it's definitely intimidating, and you got to kind of be, that's where the writing work comes in. You got to be a little bit surgical, you know, when it comes to that stuff. So
yeah, and it's, you know, it's a lot of kind of like reckoning with your expectations, you know, and just, you know, just realizing that you have to at some point write it and just get it out there, and then you can make it better later on.
Yep. And you get better by doing too, right? I mean, you can, the first thing I wrote was dog shit, and I did the opposite of what people say now, start small, which is my advice for everybody, and I think it's a lot of people's advice to newer writers. But I did the opposite. I wrote a graphic novel script, and it was probably 120 pages, and I didn't even finish. It wasn't finished, but I started getting the artwork, so I paid for 60 pages of art, you know. Then the artist disappeared. I took it to Kickstarter. This might have been 2011 or 12, before I began networking, before my like social media game was anywhere, before I even knew how to perform on Kickstarter. So I got probably 3 or 4 backers, and deservedly so. The page was dog shit. I did no research whatsoever, but I bit off way more than I can chew. But I learned by fucking up, looking like a jerk. And if I read it now, the concept is pretty cool, but the pacing, the storytelling was just, you know, it's just bad. So you got to learn by doing. Yeah,
I mean, I was actually talking today on social media about how those failures are such learning experiences, and they can really be valuable. You know, like I look back at things that I was working on early on that I thought like, oh yeah, now I've got it. This is it. Looking back, it wasn't at all. It wasn't at all. You know, and even things that I've gotten published, I look back and I'm like, damn, I was like kind of like low key not ready. You know, but hopefully in 20 years I'll look back at my stuff that I'm writing now and be like, oh, he can write, you know. But
you hit your stride, yeah.
But who knows, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you just think of it like a ladder, right? You're starting off at the bottom rung. You got to get the experience, build a portfolio, that whole 10,000 hour type thing. Yeah. You know, you got to put in the work and actually do it. That's why I used to be pretty inspired when I used to hear comedians talk on podcasts or radio shows about, you know, you don't get good until 10 years.
Oh,
and then you might,
yeah.
and then you might get good at 10, 20 years when you really get good. So I've always thought about it, even in the beginning, I've always thought comics were the same way. I'm just going to keep doing it because I enjoy doing it and being a storyteller. Just keep doing it. If people start to dig it, if I can continue doing it in 10 years, I might be pretty good. I might have some people who enjoy it, and I might be able to, you know, slowly put together some Kickstarter campaign and just get, you know, and break even doing it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I totally agree. And in fact, I'm also, I feel that I'm more inspired by comedians on podcasts than I really am the comics community. I relate to that grind more, to that honing of yourself. I feel like there's right now a lot of like, if I can build the biggest bully presence on Twitter, then I'm going to be a good comics writer, you know? But in comedy, there's little of that. There's some of it in that, you know, there's, in every industry, there's like cutthroat activities, you know, there's people like trying to one up each other. But I mean, I get my inspiration from listening to guys like Theo, Bobby Lee, you know, some guys that I would have mentioned last year, you know, but
yeah. I know. I think I was thinking about that earlier. I know we've had limited interaction, but I know from posts I've seen that I think we relate on that topic that we're talking about, the comedians and their drive and their hustle, like Schulz, which I did want to ask you about that Brilliant Idiots appearance. We can get to it later, but and I was listening earlier today to Theo's latest podcast with oh God, Half Baked, the stoner dude. If you haven't heard it yet, he fucking kills it. He's hilarious. Damn, you know, you remember Half Baked, the dude, pothead?
I know exactly who you're talking about. He's
whenever I hear him talk, his storytelling and him, like, he brings me to tears laughing, but at the same time, he could turn the switch pretty damn quick and make it emotional and make you kind of feel it when he talks about like his dad and things that we all go through. So not Jim Florentine.
Brewer.
It'll fucking come to me. Thank you. Yes, yep. Brewer. Jim Brewer. He's a beast.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that podcast today was awesome.
But by the way, dude, your setup is awesome.
Thank you, man.
You must have some kind of like lighting, huh?
I have a few different things. So I was, like I said, and like we were just talking about, watching the comedians do it. I don't see enough. I've seen what you've been doing on YouTube and bringing in your love for Pokemon and the cards and the unboxing and all that crap.
Oh yeah.
And trying to pull in different things that you dig and try and bring it to the YouTube world. And I don't really see a lot of that in the comics world, really. But so I was kind of, again, inspired by comedians and they're all doing podcasts, and they kind of, it's a set, quote unquote, right? So I mean, during COVID, we have this little back unfinished half of the basement, and my wife, for my day job, was like, you know, you can't keep sitting upstairs. I need some space. I need you to get out of here. So she kind of pushed me to go. So I framed some walls out here, some sheetrock, some crappy paint. But then back here, I just kind of wanted to make it somewhere where I can chill for 8 hours a day during the day job.
Yeah.
And when I started thinking about wanting to do a YouTube channel for comic books and writing, and, you know, just to give tips and advice to people who were starting out now, that I wish, you know, 10 years ago I knew. There was a show that kind of delved and gave that type of info. So yeah, long story short, thank you for the shout out. Yeah, man, it took a little while, and so the lighting. Yeah, I have a couple of different things I could show you afterwards. If you want, I could send you some pictures. But yeah, I had a friend of mine who actually he's a photographer. I asked him to do me a favor and come by one day and just, you know, give me a few different tips. I think they call it like 2-point lighting. So I actually have a light up here and then a light down here. And then in the back, I have these two smaller lights kind of giving off a bluish and then one giving off red. I mean, I've just been...
It looks good, man.
Sometimes I feel like it's too bright. Oh, thank you, man.
No, yeah. It looks super crisp and clear. Dude, like right now, my shit, you know, like I got like tan and red. I look like fucking peanut butter and jelly here, you know? Like it's very just like homogenous, but yours shit looks
it took a while. No, I had to put it together. The webcam does like most of the trick. I forget what it's a Logitech. It's a 1080p, so I mean that's the quality right there, and the lighting. there's one thing I learned from the poet Lizzo, it's you got to have that bomb ass lighting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dude. Tell me about how did Charmed come about? Because I was thinking about it earlier, and if it's a long story, we don't have to go down that road. But I remember back in the day, like me, my mom, my sister, we used to sit down and eat dinner while my dad worked the night shift, and that was one of the shows. I don't know if you remember back in the '90s, but I think it was 7 o'clock or something. That would come on. That, Buffy, and Angel were like the three shows, and those were the three hits. So we would sit there, and Fresh Prince, like Family Matters, but Charmed in particular, that one I think we watched all the way through. I think until they killed one of the main characters. Kind of, I don't know if there was issues behind the scenes, but I think they wrote one of them
there
off.
was, yeah.
I vaguely remember that part.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah, we loved those shows. So
yeah, yeah, that death has had a ripple effect on what I was doing in the comics, because it was the character Prue, who was played by Shannon Doherty, and
right.
I was put in this position because the very short of how I got Charmed was that Charm was actually what I reached out to Zenescope about writing first, because I had just written a short Angel story, and that was my first ever credit. So my next goal was, how can I use that credit as a stepping stone to get similar gigs? So
That's a great first credit, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it was my dream, to write on a Buffyverse property, and
that's awesome.
Out the gate, it was a very, very good first gig, and my cat over here is making some noise. So with
mine will be here soon. I think she's paying the butt.
I would love to meet her. With Charmed, I wrote Zenescope, and I just introduced myself, showed my work, and I actually got the gig very quickly, but I ended up taking some more gigs on their other stuff before actually writing Charmed. So it just progressed that way. The at the time writer Paul Roditis was looking to leave, and he helped me then become the writer, and has since been a major force of just goodness and creative goodwill in my life. He's a great guy. And dude, but on Charmed, that character, Prue, Shannon Doherty's character, was killed off in the end of season 3, and I came on to write the 10th season overall, the second season of the comics, and we couldn't use her. But Paul had introduced Prue back into the narrative. She was resurrected, and her soul was in someone else's body. So we had Prue, but couldn't show the actress's face. And a lot of the fans wanted to know why, because publicly, Shannon Doherty would say things like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine with them using us," but we were told the opposite. So I was put in this position where fans thought I was lying about that.
They were coming for blood. They were out for you, man.
Yeah, but it's like, why wouldn't I want to use her face? Like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
yeah,
that's that. But yeah, it's interesting.
She was notorious for behind the scenes type of drama. I think I remember from her different shows, which, now we're getting into TMZ territory.
I mean, people love her though. People love her. In fact, they love her so much that one person, because of the direction I took that character's storyline, Prue, someone wrote online, it's still the most creative insult that I've ever gotten, because Shannon Doherty, God bless her, she while during that time she was suffering through cancer. And someone commented that they wish that they hope that Shannon Doherty's cancer infects my tongue, the back of my throat, And I was just like, damn, dude, like
that's hard.
He's
hardcore.
Really upset about this comic book storyline about a show that's been up the air for a long, long time. Like,
and they took their vengeance or their anger out on you,
wishing me cancer, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that ain't right.
It's intense.
So how did you, so you said Angel was your first credit. Would you consider that your quote unquote breaking in moment? And then how did that, I guess you just said how it came about, but is that your breaking in moment, I guess? I more consider it my kick in the door, waving the 4-4 moment. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, no, dude, I guess so. Like
Well, that's a weird, because I was thinking about it, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but
No, it's okay.
thinking about breaking in, I think people set that bar differently depending on who you ask. I think some people, maybe now it's different. I think now with Kickstarter, someone might say, I want to self-publish my first book through Kickstarter successfully, and then they'll consider themselves, or they'll take that as being breaking in, which is, I think I might fall into that camp when I successfully did that. Or I guess my first small press credit maybe, but I don't know. I never really thought breaking in was a goal. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
Some people's bar maybe was getting a Marvel credit, which their bar is extremely high, and then you're in the industry. Then people know you, and now you've broken in.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a bar that you set internally. I mean, that's how I look at it.
No, I totally agree because it's what I keep telling myself is this, that it's hard to look at what you've done objectively. It's so easy to compare careers. It's easy to say, if so and so is doing this and that, is that what breaking in is? But I think about it less these days. But the truth is, and this is something that I haven't discussed much, and something that I have tried to not feel. But the truth is, the real truth is, in the past and sometimes now, I do feel I feel underestimated and unembraced by the comics community. It's largely because of Kickstarter in some ways. It's not seen, and this is changing. It's in the midst of changing, but it's a successful book on Kickstarter that does better than a book that comes out through Diamond is sometimes seen as, for some reason, not as legitimate as that less successful book through Diamond, And because of that, and because of people, people largely misunderstood a lot of the books that I was doing at Zenescope. Like they look at those books and the whole company as a thing that it's not. People still don't know how cool Zenescope is. Like they have after Marvel and DC, they have the most consistent interconnected universe in comics, period, by far. And it's something that people look at the book and think that they understand it based on a variant cover, and they don't, And I do it's not my battle to fight anymore because I haven't worked at Zenescope exclusively for a long time now, but it's hard to divorce myself from that energy, that kind of like you don't really get it energy. And that could be a negative thing about my experience in comics. It could be a negative thing about me that I'm trying to like just look at my own shit, but that is honestly how I do feel sometimes.
Yeah, I remember. I haven't really thought about that much lately. I do remember. I guess I thought about it a few years back. How the public view, or I guess the industry view of Kickstarter was, and it was that it's a lesser, way to do it. Maybe if you can't hack it by getting into an established publisher, you go to Kickstarter. So those people are, those indie guys over there, they're not telling good stories, or they're not working, or there aren't artists who are good, which I think that's done, man. I think it has to be done. If it's not, if people still think like that, then they're fucking ridiculous. I mean, the way some publishers like Boom is going to Kickstarter, and it might be a marketing thing or marketing ploy on their end, but it's bringing eyes to Kickstarter. It's bringing other people to come and back our books in the near future, people who now have accounts and might get alerts when a new sci-fi that, it just went up there, launched, that they might dig, and they might open up the email and see it, so they might back our stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I would hope that is gone. Maybe the old guard. The old guard
hopefully
is gone, or they're not as vocal about it anymore.
I think that
you're probably right.
I think that people are changing. Like you said, it's part of the old guard of understanding, but at the same time, what I see too is I see this almost like self-isolation of Kickstarter creators, where you mentioned Boom, and they put a Keanu Reeves book on Kickstarter, and I think it's fine to, to like make jokes about it. Like I did joke around about it, but I was I was joking. I want that on Kickstarter. That's something that's going to be good for the whole community, I think. But
I agree. Other
creators feel that is going to take away from them, and I think that is a real. It's a real. Having that mentality is a disservice to you, because that book is going to exist anyway. People are going to see it anyway. That being on Kickstarter is not going to limit what people buy on Kickstarter. It's going to draw more eyes to Kickstarter. And to me, if a creator fears that, I think that they should more fear the quality of their own work and their own game, rather than worrying about what someone else is doing. If someone else's book can impact your shit that much, then you have a major problem,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel you. It's bringing customers to the platform who weren't there before.
Yeah.
So now when we go back, there's going to be more people online waiting to get into the store that is Kickstarter. And if your aisle is tight, if you have, if you have a dope video, if you have a great page, if you have great artwork, if you have a sequential pages that they can see the storytelling that you're going to be doing in the book, they'll that's on you. That's on 100%. You. They'll hopefully come and purchase your shit and back you. Would that be so? Sticking with crowdfunding? What would be if somebody wanted to crowdfund a book in 3 months, and that's their first crowdfunding foray into crowdfunding, I guess, a Kickstarter? What would be a quick bit of advice? I know you kind of just laid out a good chunk of it.
Yeah, I do have advice here, and this might actually seem harsh, but it's actually, this shit is super, super loving, this advice. My advice is to ask less, to ask fewer questions, and to watch more. When I first started to use Kickstarter, dude, the amount of campaigns that I studied and that I emulated was, I mean, I looked at everything.
Me too. Yep. You have to.
Kickstarter, they make it so easy. You go to comics, you sort by most funded, by most successful, and you can look at what works. It's literally right there.
Right.
The way to do it is right there. So,
and copy books in your genre too. I mean, seek out, if you're writing a sci-fi. I mean, look at everything, but start by looking at other sci-fis.
Yeah,
successful sci-fi.
See how that person who has a successful sci-fi book, see how that person sold their book on Kickstarter.
Yep.
And do it your own way, but just take notes about what works and what doesn't, and then adjust over time. Like, for example, the biggest cue that I have when I'm talking to someone about their campaign having a problem is when they ask questions that they wouldn't have needed to ask. Like like the most basic shit is like, what kind of rewards should I do? It's like, that's a very, very basic question. So my thought would be, my answer to that, obviously I can say things like, I do prints, I do enamel pins, and then I can tell them my growth over time. That the truth is, I realize that people care way less about prints than you think, than I thought personally. So I have dramatically cut down the amount of prints I do, and I've changed to having like 2 prints and an enamel pin. And then I would, in the past, I would charge for a bookmark, but now people don't really want a bookmark, but they'll take it as a free stretch goal, so I'll put it as a stretch goal,
Right,
and
yeah.
I could say that, and that might be helpful, but I don't think it would be that helpful, because the truth is that that's not a question that you should be asking. You should be asking in-depth things like, when this happened to your Kickstarter, what did you do? When campaign number 2 didn't do as well as campaign number 1, how did that inform campaign 3? Those kind of in-depth questions show that you've put in the work. I think that so many people want to look at someone who's done it and just get the answers by asking them those questions, and they just like can take the information and plug it into their own campaign.
They want the shortcut.
Yeah, but the truth is that's not going to be as helpful. So to me, the most helpful thing I can say is that if you're asking those kind of questions, just do what I did and do what I think other successful creators do, is go back to Kickstarter and study. Take the time to look at those campaigns. Sort by most backed and look and see, why is that one the most backed? So many of the most backed campaigns are the most backed because they had these established audiences as webcomics. So that's something that you could look at and go, all right, well, for my purposes, I can't attain that. So that doesn't work for me. What's next? Oh, this campaign is by Brian Pulido. He has had Lady Death for 20 years. That's not that helpful, but you can learn from
find your lane.
Yeah, but you can learn certain things, like you can see that Brian Pulido speaks to his audience in a certain way. He'll say things like I don't remember where it is, but he has a name for his fans. He gives them identity. And he gives them something that they feel is worth pushing for, so that when he launches, they think of it not as, oh, it's time to buy the new Brian Pulido book. They think of it more as, oh, it's time for me to do what people like me do. I'm a blank. Say, for example, he calls them the Deathers. I don't think that's what it is. But say, I'm a Deather. I want this next book to be the biggest one yet. So I'm going to be there at launch. I'm going to
take that home.
Take it, dude. Yeah. And yeah, he's been able to to make his marketing part of the identity of his readers. So that's something that you can learn from. But then just scroll down more and see campaigns that are successful but a bit smaller. See what they did. See how they got it, and just learn that way. That's how I did it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I did it too. And I've given that advice. There's a few people. Well, one person in particular who came to me years ago, and he just said, "Hey, can I call you and let's talk about Kickstarter? I just want to know how to do it." But then that's it. So not even a specific. And my advice was that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. I almost felt bad not walking him through it, but I think he wanted me to. He was really asking me to hold his hand and take him through every single little step. And you have to do like you did or like I did. Go through campaigns, take notes, see what the successful ones are doing. What can you emulate? What can you copy off of, essentially, and make it work for you.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel that one. That's a good one. Did you ever... Well, let's talk, if we can, let's talk about Brilliant Idiots, because I have to... I think I remember seeing you post about it.
Yeah.
A few years back, I think after it happened. And I remember looking into it, so if I can set it up, I think you hit up Charlemagne, who happened to be talking about comics, and I think he was huge at the time, and he was doing the Breakfast Club still, while doing Brilliant Idiots, which is not as big as it is today, right? And Schulz wasn't as big as he is today on YouTube.
That's true.
And Charlemagne kind of said, "Dude, come on in," and then he went in. And I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was hijacked by some Italian goon from Brooklyn, right? Some guy, one of their regulars, and he kind of just came in, while it out, and that's all I remember, really. But
it's similar.
It's pretty dope either way.
the truth more was that I was the hijacker, because it was Premium Pete's episode. He wanted to be on for a while, and he got on. He has his own podcast. Dude, the stuff that he does about The Sopranos, he has so many of the actors on. He asks the best questions. He is, as someone who is both a lover of The Sopranos and hip hop, that specific overlap he covers beautifully. I love what he does. And he was on Brilliant Idiots that day.
Let me apologize for calling him an Italian goon. As a fellow Italian, I apologize. Don't beat me up, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, he's a good guy. He
was hilarious, by the way, on that episode.
Oh yeah, he's a bit of a ball breaker. I like him. And so yeah, Brilliant Idiots. The way it happened was, I was talking to Charlemagne through Twitter DM, and he said come down to the radio station. So Dude, that night I hadn't slept yet. My shit is that sometimes, and right now, I have this weird sleep schedule because of work. Sometimes I'll end up being someone who goes to sleep at maybe like 9 a.m. sometimes. And so Charlemagne told me to come down to the radio station at like 5:30. So I was like, I have to go. I have to go now, you know. So I woke Amy up, my wife, and I was like, do you want to come down to the radio station and just like support me? And she said, sure. So she came down. I went in, and my phone was being so messed up, it wasn't loading anything, and I was trying to prove to the security at the radio station.
Oh no!
I was like, dude, I'm here to see Charlemagne, you know. And my understanding was that it was going to be a meeting. Like, he didn't say anything but come down to the radio station, and then I DM'd him back, I'm here, and he took a while, and then he said, okay, got you. And then who he sent down was Chris Morrow, who runs that podcast network. And he brought me up, and I thought he was going to bring me into like this waiting room. But instead, he brings me in, and he brings me into the recording session. And when I meet Charlemagne and Schulz is what you see in that episode. I walked in,
right?
I just walked in, and that's when I first met him. I was upon meeting them on the podcast immediately. And I remember it was cold outside. No, it was cold in the actual building. And my nipples were hard. And as soon as they came in, they started joking about me having hard nipples. And I was just like now, dude, like now, I would have loved to have done like a bit with them and gone back and forth. But like I was still like, it's a major shell shock to go from oh man, I'm about to meet Charlemagne. I respect him so much. I'm going to like pitch him this idea. It's a huge difference between going in to expect that and then, oh, you're also about to be on one of your favorite podcasts of all time, you know?
Yeah. And now we're live. Come on in.
Yeah.
What's up?
And it was like, fun.
What?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was fun. Like I did keep, to me, what was the right level of respect in that I chimed in here and there, you know. I talked about my upcoming wedding. I talked about some Marvel stuff, but it was still Pete's episode, you know. So I did kind of like hang back and let Pete do most of the talking there because it was Pete's episode and my time to wait for the meeting that would happen afterwards, you know. But it was still just being on that is it's still crazy to think about, you know.
No, that's wild. That was
wild.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
No, that was dope, man. That was dope.
Yeah,
and that was, what was that, 5+ years ago at least?
I'd say at this point it had to be at 4, between 3 and 4, because Schulz has ballooned into just, I mean, he's always been an amazing comedian to me, but he has, now he's got the recognition. He's become one of the brightest stars in comedy. And I remember because he and I would still text for a while, and because I was talking to them about doing a comic based on their podcast, and I won't get too deep into that, but you know, I would see him, Schulz, that is, I would see him making these big moves, and I would just text him from here and there and be like, dude, Joe Rogan, huh? You going on Joe Rogan tonight, dude? And then since then he's been on Joe Rogan multiple times. And
he's huge.
Yeah.
He's taken over. You know, that he was one of the inspirations for the idea of what I'm trying to do on YouTube, and you know, fingers crossed it even gets 1,000 views an episode or whatever. But I'm trying to start at the beginning. But looking at him build it up, take it year by year and whatever. Huge inspiration.
Yeah, he's a real G, and also he's a
hustler.
He's a
in the good sense of doing the work and hustling, and
he's also a very nice guy. He's very respectful. He, after that podcast, because he didn't know that I was coming in. When I came in, he was like, what's going on? But he was, throughout the entire podcast and meeting, he was fun, gracious, nice, excited about work. And when I was done, he came out, he met Amy, he was nice and gracious to her. He's just he to me, he is an absolute class act. As is Charlemagne. You know, they're the two of them are just great guys to me. Yeah.
Did you ever, was there ever like a fork in the road moment for you where you almost threw in the towel and kind of stopped writing comics?
I got frustrated with comics.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if other people feel this way, but I do, because I come from a background of, you know, my first dream was to be a novelist, and then I was working in theater for a while, and comics is just more. I found a medium where I can collaborate and express myself with people, but it isn't, because, dude, I love theater, but there is a sadness to me to the impermanence of theater. You have the performance of your play, and then that's a wrap. It's over. You know, that play exists as a script, but the finished product is an experience, and then it's done. It's like a Snapchat, you know. But
Yeah.
and
It's unique every time.
yeah, and a comic though, you get to collaborate and just tell your cat hello.
You hear her, right? I
Yeah.
don't know where she is. I think she's in the closet.
A comic is, you get that same level of collaboration. Like in a play, you collaborate with actors, directors. In comics, you have that collaboration, but the end product is a piece of forever. You know, you get to keep that forever, and that was very attractive to me. So that's what drew me to comics. But sometimes I fall out of love with what other creators are doing. Like I sometimes get cynical about the state of the industry, and that isn't how I want to feel, but it's just the truth. And sometimes I just need to stoke other fires. Like, for example, recently I hit up our editor Shannon Lee, and I was just like, we needed to start talking about doing and this is so left field, but I was like, we need to start talking about a way that we could do a series of collectible cat cards, because if I don't do something that isn't comics, I'm not gonna feel right inside. I have to do other things that aren't comics, and doing that is what keeps me making comics, because I don't ever feel like I want to stop writing, but I do feel as if the industry, if I don't tend to other inspirations, can wear me down.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so you need to exercise those the creativity messing around inside of you. You need to get that out.
Yeah.
Every way you can.
Yeah.
Oh, something's wobbling in there. Okay. Have you wrestled with things like self-doubt or the quote-unquote imposter syndrome, which I think means I think they equate it to when you've achieved some success, then it hits when they use imposter syndrome. But I mean, I think boiling that down to a different level of whether or not you've achieved success, even taking the step into doing something creative, right, is putting your shit out there. You're putting yourself out there. If it bombs or whatever, it could, things like that can start messing with your head. I know they've messed with mine in the past.
Yeah.
Present and future, by the way.
Self-doubt as far as my business acumen, yeah. As far as sometimes I'll be like, I'll think that I haven't been pushing the right way to push my career forward, that I haven't been making the right steps to take my career in places that, you know, I want it to be. That's the self-doubt that I feel. As far as self-doubt as a creative, that I don't feel anymore, to be honest. You know, I do feel I love what I'm doing, and I love the state of what I've done, and as far as the body of work that I've made, I'm very proud of it. And I feel that comics is this place, this medium where, you know, you get help making it good. Like, for example, Destiny New York. That is when the final script is written, that's such a far cry from the final volume. The final volume is going to be drawn. I'll change the script after I see it drawn. I'll hone it here and there, and as it goes along, I have so many chances to make it good. You know, like it's I have a long rope that I give myself to make something better, and I find that when I have that time that has elapsed from the writing of it to the actual printing of it, I can get distance from it and look at it as if it was written by someone else, and that is how I can make it good. So because I've allowed myself that process, I don't feel the creative self-doubt, but I do definitely feel the career self-doubt for sure.
So when you say the career self-doubt, would that be that you're current? So maybe you're not thinking of different folks you could reach out to or network with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's that
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I don't play as nice as I should. I don't really I don't do like, I mean, RIP conventions, you know, that's done for a while. But when I go to conventions, my comics friends have always encouraged me to like go out and make more friends and like make more connections in the industry, talk to editors. But you know, despite what I might show online, is I like to joke around online. Like I like my social media presence to be something that's fun and light. But I'm also a very internal person. Like I don't want to go out. Like no new friends, no new. You know what I mean? Like I feel that way. I feel introverted in many ways, dude. So that has definitely been a thing where like I used to push myself more when I was hungrier, as far as I didn't have any gigs. I didn't have the audience to make these Kickstarters possible. At that point, I was like, all right, well, I have to put myself on the line and talk to this, and that person. But as time has gone on, sometimes I wonder if I take fewer shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think you're, I guess, comfortable, right? I mean, you're comfortable in your lane. You found your lane. You're crushing it in your lane. So maybe you don't necessarily need to make, to go out of your way to do things you don't want to do now. You know, you've built up something that you can sit and, do the damn thing on your own.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's definitely part of it. As is, I think that as far as this industry goes, there is a ceiling on the level of opportunity that you can have. You know, like I ask myself, like, what do I want? Like, do I want to like do the Cullen Bun and have a book at every publisher? I mean, I could want that, sure, but at the same time, like, publishers just like my experience getting paid in general, it's rough. You know, like it's not. It's hard to push into the industry further when the industry has shown itself to be so unreliable to creators. It's not. There are a few publishers who have taken great care of me, and those publishers, you know, Zenoscope, Avatar Press, have all taken great care of me. And then there are publishers who I feel personally supported by, who have been less good financially, but I still have a lot of goodwill toward. But then there's also just this feeling that that what if I were to put myself out there and like go and like push myself toward like Aftershock, toward Valiant, toward all these publishers, it's like, what is, you know, cool. I'll get a book here and there, but what is the overall goal? Sometimes I get kind of like existential about it, like what am I really after when I'm already doing Destiny New York, and that's what I want to be doing. So what do I want out of here except to make a living doing this, surviving by just writing? And then it's like, yeah, but that's also so in the moment. This industry, we don't treat our veterans that well. We don't treat people who have been writing comics for years, for decades. They're still looking for work in their 60s, their 70s. You know, it's a hard industry to feel comfortable pushing further into.
And now with Space Between, you're taking care of you and your family, you and your wife, and you're able to support yourselves with and build your catalog, build your quote-unquote portfolio, your bookshelf with all the books that you're working on that you're publishing.
Yeah.
And you're doing so you essentially have removed yourself from the need of, with the help of Kickstarter obviously and crowdfunding, but and your own talent and your stick-to-itiveness and your hustle for the last X amount of years, you've removed yourself essentially from the need of some of these publishers who may not know how to take care of creators.
Yeah,
so I think we just came full circle because we started off by talking your goal with Space Between.
Yeah.
And taking it, using that and riding that into the sunset.
Yeah, I'm very creatively satisfied. I think if I look at what I would like to go moving forward in my career outside of Space Between, is I would love to here and there, have fun collaborating with other creators and create good work with other creators. I would love to have multiple podcasts that I can do weekly and just have that be a thing that I do as a staple. I love to do this. I think that I can grow doing this, and I would love to, just have funny videos out there. And then 3, I would like to be disgustingly wealthy. You know what I mean?
Well, I can see. I mean, yeah, we have to mold and become content creators now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just write the comics and a publisher is gonna promote it for you. It's you have to do. No one's gonna hype your shit but you. And part of that is creating the other content. The funny videos, the podcast about A, B, and C subjects. So, yeah, I'm on the same page of trying to make that happen. And you're a natural at talking and going back and forth. I'm trying to get there and get better at the podcast world, and just free flowing and all that good stuff while being recorded. It's still kind of new to me, so I'm trying to get there. And
I think you're good, man. You
do some.
Yeah, you're a natural speaker. You have a good setup. And I think that you're an interesting, likable guy. I think that you are. I think that you're killing it. This is it's a great show, this right here, and I think that, this is a very creator-friendly show. I can tell that you looked into what I'm about, and you're asking questions that aren't just like, they aren't like the easy questions. You have asked questions that have allowed us to dig into some pretty cool stuff, I think.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I think I said it before. The end goal is to try and at least, if I do it for X amount of months and put a pin in it, is to come away with a little bit of a catalog that a new writer can look at and watch videos and figure out how I dipped my toe in, how creators like you, writers like you dipped your toe in, and they can take what works for them, throw out the shit that doesn't, and figure out how to do the work and dip their toe in.
Yeah.
And, hit the ground running and not make the mistakes that we've made. So, dude,
Yeah.
I appreciate the hour you just gave to me and coming on and talking before the show is even launched. So I definitely, I'm humbled by that. I definitely appreciate that. I don't know when I'm going to air this. It's going to be in the next month or so.
Yeah.
So where can people find you overall?
I can be found, on Twitter, social media, Instagram, at Pat Shand. If you, that's my more general stuff. If you're into Pokemon card openings, dude, TikTok is where it's at, man. I post multiple card openings per day. Just some light fun there. My work, it's all online on Amazon. If you go to comic book stores now, you can order Destiny New York as a single issue series through Black Mask Studios. That's on order now.
So, dude, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thanks for having me on.